data is kind of new experience, and AI is the new enabler. If you think, I'll just hone on to it. And it's important for every individual, those are in the decision making part of any enterprise, to really deeply think about this, how this is going to impact their organizations, whether it is governmental or commercial.
Hello and welcome to a whole new episode of Engati CX. I'm your host Jeremy D'Souza, and today we're addressing a rather interesting concept. We're going to be talking about explainable AI. But before I introduce you to our guest, allow me to first introduce you to the magic of Engati. Engati is the world's leading no-code chatbot platform, available across 14 channels with 41,000 bots created across 186 countries in every domain and use case. Engati has also been recognized as a top platform by Inc.com, TechWorld, CIO, and many others. But we're not just a chatbot platform anymore. We've also launched a brand new state-of-the-art live chat module that you should definitely check out. We also run the Engati blog, the video channel, and the Engati CX podcast, receiving upwards of 400,000 visitors annually. And you should definitely hit the subscribe button so you never miss a single interview. And now, for our amazing guest, allow me to introduce you to Priti Padhy, co-founder and CEO at Cognino.ai, an AI-first, research-led organization innovating multidimensional neural networks with explainability. An entrepreneurial technologist at heart, Priti has been building products, incubating high-value, complex, and disruptive technology innovation with global engineering talents over 25 years and has worked with large tech organizations like Microsoft. He was also a CTO at KPMG before founding Cognino.ai. Really, we're really thrilled to have you on the show with us.
Great to speak to you, Jeremy, and Engati Live folks.
Okay, Preeti, let's dive into the interview. My first question to you is, what is explainable artificial intelligence all about, as you call it, XAI?
First of all, AI is such a vast subject, if you think of, and then explainability is even slightly complex. And people do interpret AI in many different ways. You know, is it a machine learning? Is it deep learning? Is it neural network? Is it image recognition? Is it voice to text? Whole raft of thing can be categorized as artificial intelligence. My definition will be slightly specific and different, and I'm just trying to create suggest a disclaimer that this is not the only definition you would say about what is explainable AI is. But I have been in this space for a long time, so I can suggest with lots of accountability that we really don't have what we call AI from a true form or sense. We don't really have the generalized AI. What we have is machine learning, which we have been doing for a long time, not new, which is doing things cheaper, faster, better, right? That is what machine learning did. Now, then came as a neural networks or deep learning, which is an interesting paradigm shift of research, which is thinking about brain and can we replicate the same way the way human learn, such as we scan, we comprehend, and we act. That's what we kind of do as human. So if you think of scanning, these are our sensory. So we take eyes and ears to understand our environment or contextualize and comprehend using our short-term memory and long-term memory, and we act. So that is the kind of concept as a concept where the neural networks were established. But what we didn't do is when you actually think of how we learn, human learn, we don't learn one day in one day. We take long period, almost decades. And if you think of our learning, we learn good 15 years to actually master a particular language or master a particular subject, not just 1-2 years. So the way we learn, we take lots of data and we create lots of abstract knowledge. So if you think of you being a kid, your parents would have said, "Here is a car," and you might have said, "Yeah, it's a car," when you saw a next car. But when you saw a truck, you might have misled yourself saying it's a car. And your parents normally say, "No, no, it's not a car, it's a truck." So they introduce a new word. So in our brain, we have lots of concept and lots of abstract knowledge. And if you think of AI and neural network, you need to build this knowledge at different stages. So the engine has similar kind of context and a broader context to take decision. That was the kind of foundational design of neural network. What went wrong, or what I would say is a black box AI, is the engine takes lots of layered decisions and it takes very quickly. And it goes from one layer to another layer of these abstract knowledge that you cannot really trace back. You can't trace back how exactly the AI is taking decision. That to me is a black box AI. Explainability comes heart of AI. If you think of humanity in general, if we want to really give artificial intelligence to run our life or give the decision making ability, we need to audit the AI. That means we should be able to tell why this AI took a particular decision, what was the reason. Every triage, every turn of the decision making needs to be auditable. That's to me is explainability of AI. Now, I want to take a little more time because it's a subject which is also important. If you want to use for a laboratory experiment doing AI, it's okay. But if you want to use AI for driverless car, right? Why the driverless car is going to stop? Because it saw one person or 5%. Why it took a left turn or right turn needs to be explained, every part of it, because it is ethically important for us why the engine is taking particular decision. Or for another example, if you want to use AI for medical doctor augmentations, the doctors study for 10 years and then they study continuously to come to a decision about disease, and we want to bring AI to take the decision making. If we can't really explain, and you say, okay, the AI decided by looking into X-ray that this is not to do with lung cancer, this is to do with some other type of cancer. Why did it come to that decision? You need to be able to trace back and explain that decision. Same thing if you think of explainability is important when you are thinking of giving loan to certain group of people or insuring certain type of people, right? In financial services organization. These are very important, highly regulated industries. We can't bring AI to this world without true explainability. We need to explain each of it. So then comes you have privacy, data, and human rights, right? So if you want every part of the decision making to be explained, the AI engine can really truly have to be learning about you if you want to give real kind of recommendation for your decision making. There is ethical principles, how much data the engine needs to learn, how much bias we need to debias, all that. So there's a very vast and very complex subject what is explainability around AI is. But in simple terms, if I want to summarize, is the ability to really understand its decision making and having a human judgment in place. That is what explainability is in the AI.
Mhm.
And the second piece of that definition to me is how the technical building block of this AI is being built. So the neural networks of majority of the hyper vendors and large academia and research is building huge monolithic AI systems like GPT-3, and you might have heard about that. So, a huge, large models, that's not going to give you explainability. Explainability will come when you have large number of neural networks working together, almost like how our brain works. We don't have one brain, we have multiple compartment within the brain which takes the decision. And so we need to really think in that line. And at Cognino, that's our kind of research space where we think multiple set of neural network working in tandem, specializing in its own form uh, to create the brain and create abstract knowledge and ultimately taking the decisions. All of that needs to be really explained why this engine took a particular decision. If you want to use AI for critical decision making in healthcare, financial services, or for societal problem solving.
Okay, so from what I understand, it's all about understanding why AI came to this conclusion. Why is it making the decision that it is making, and having traceability and accountability over there rather than just letting it wander off the block and do whatever it feels right, right?
Absolutely. And it's a matter of time. If you heard of GDPR, right?
Mm-hmm.
And European Union have got ethics of AI, so as UK, so as US. Every government will regulate AI. That means we need to have explainability as part of AI foundational. And neural network was not meant for that. Hence, you need to approach the AI paradigm and research completely different in a different way. It's not just machine learning or a black box neural network.
Absolutely, it's much more expansive, and that kind of builds into my next question for you. Really, what do you think is the next wave of transformation in AI?
Well, again, you are asking very generalized, very broad subject. As I said, it's a very, very broad subject. It has a research topic for 50 plus years. So I'm going to say a few things. So until now, we were doing mainly supervised learning. Excuse me. What do you mean by supervised learning? It's predominantly human judgment is part of the knowledge building. And so we train, and it's a big shift from softwares that we did for last 30 odd years or 30, 40 years, which is we provide a set of rules to write the software. Here we are providing a set of data, and the engine creates its own rule as it looks into the data. But when we give the data, we were doing what we call level the data, right? Majority of the AI has been you level the data and you ingest the data to either through machine learning or deep neural network, and then you validate those decision making or the data that the way the engine is
Yeah.
reasoning through. That needs to change if we want to make the this as a mass production and mass utilization in multiple use cases. Uh, so it needs to move from supervised learning, which is very, very costly. I mean, if you think of a particular model and a group of data scientists, it can take 6 to 10 months for building a model, fine tuning, feature engineer. And by the time you come, the data has changed. That means you have to go through an entire cycle and you start leveling the data and so on and so forth. So again, at Cognino, our quest is how could we create unsupervised learning? So that is the kind of next stage. But I call this you taking to a next step beyond, which is contextual learning. So we human don't need to be taught, as I was giving you an example of when you were a kid, how you learned about car. But we also do something called transfer learning as a human, right? So you tell something and we contextualize and move to another environment and apply our previous learning, and that's transfer learning. So that is a big shift which needs to happen, which is like you are taught about a car and you can contextualize, even if you are, and you the AI needs to learn that it's not a car but it's a truck, but I can take some of my learning that I learned for car and apply for understanding it's a truck. So that's transfer learning, which is a big shift of research. And then comes the generalized learning, which is you will dealing with completely unknown set of data. You throw any data and the engine needs to adjust and understand. So that's the third set, which is generalized learning. And the fourth set is a big um important piece. If you think of, we want to create ecosystem of every device around us, whether it is a mobile phone, whether it is you move to a room and you have a device which is talking to you, whether the lights that you have in a room that you want to talk to it, right? So all that is an ambient technology which will have little bit of AI. So that needs to be as powerful as a very centralized AI, which is a cloud centric large data source. We are talking about a federated AI. Federated AI is, you have edge AI, AI almost in every edge, in every device, whether it is sensory device, whether it is wearables, whether it is glasses that is coming as a AR, VR, all that needs powerful AI. That means your engine needs to work with multiple AI system as a federated ecosystem and reason through all these informations as you go. And the other big shift of AI which needs to happen, which is like the NLP. Language of human interaction is such a complex evolution that we have gone through millennials to get to here. And I guess you guys are involved in that as a Engati group, but
Yep.
it's not as easy as it seems like. And when you bring multiple language, multiple nuances, multiple context, the same sentence can be suggested as a negative, positive, neutral. It's very, very human centric engagement. When you take that to machine, it's not as easy as it feels. So that's a big NLP innovations. GPT has done great, but it's nothing close to what I think that encapsulate what I call fifth dimension of AI as the last leg of AI innovation, which needs to happen, which is using almost like how human learn. And at Cognino, that's what we are doing: is how human learn, how human contextualize information, how human continuously learn and adjust as the data changes, using generalized learning, using transfer learning. And that's what we are working on. And I believe that's the kind of next AI paradigm shift or next wave of AI.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. And pretty, what I would like to ask you is, in your opinion, how has this entire COVID-19 pandemic accelerated digital transformation and got companies to adopt new technology?
You are asking again very generic questions. So I'll try to answer as concise as possible. But if you think of in last 6 to 9 months time since we have had the pandemic, every part of the organization has transformed digitally. What does that mean? Let's take education. Even a rural village school has tried to do something through digital format, through remote training or something. So education is a big shift to digital and remote education, and it's continued to be a challenge, but it is where it is moving. And so for many years, people were saying, oh, cloud, moving into cloud is a big problem, and so on and so forth. Suddenly it happened within 2 months. Everybody moved into cloud. Governments, I don't know if you have been following, but British Parliament was conducting through online meetings, right? They were using Microsoft Teams or Zoom, either one of them, or we are talking to each other from such a long distance, the same thing. So from US government to India to China to almost to all entire European government, European Union, all moved into digital format, taking decision through digital processes and engaging with public through digital process. So it's all digital. Then the third aspect of change that you have seen is health, because that's the main fundamental aspects of healthcare, which is impacting everybody right now across the world. And if you see in majority of European country and US, the primary and secondary care has moved digital, right? So what it meant digital, it's all engagement with the patient, primary assessment to deeper engagement with the people, those with elderly, those are society in general are engaged through digital format. And then brings the business, and as a fourth quadrant, almost every business had to reimagine their processes, how they can be digitizing their things. As I said, almost in last 9 months we had 90 years of digital transformation, if you say so. So that's the big acceleration of digital transformation that has happened right now.
Okay, pretty interesting, pretty. Um, in your opinion, which industries or sectors are adopting AI in their businesses right now, and which ones do you think should really be adopting AI?
Uh, I think in general, to me, every organization is an AI company or a software company, right? There is not a company which, even if you're a brick and motor shop, you need to think as a digital enterprise. So every company is a software company, means every company is potentially AI company. But what you have seen because of the COVID and the digital transformation that has happened, every organization will produce huge amount of data, right? And what would you do with that data without having real AI? Data is the new experience. Data is exponential. Data is growing in every dimension, and the only way you can reason through that data is using AI, right? So only way. And so to me, of course, there are organizations in financial services and healthcare which are the top adapter of AI, adapting very fast. But government, you thought they are behind. Local government to central government to federal government, all are opting AI for reimagining the entire government, reimagining businesses engagement, citizen empowerment in a big way. And then you think of manufacturing, oil and gas, and retail. They have been doing some part of it already for a long time. Machine learning and AI was their part of various workflow, and it's only going to be more deeper in the sense. But ultimately, people will look for an experience almost like an ambient enterprise of AI. It's a large number of AI agents doing things for us, and every workflow that you have will turn out to be a conversation. I call workflow, every workflow that you have now will turn as a conversation. That means, uh, you will talk to machines, you will engage with the machines, you will order something, you will dictate something, and that is all how the barrier of technology will go. You will engage through human natural language. So that's where I see the AI being used as the forefront, but the data will be done and reasoned through in the backend in a big way using the deep neural networks of the world.
Pretty interesting. So without AI, you're just gonna end up wasting your data if you don't have AI to reason through it and tell you what's
Absolutely.
happening with your business. Pretty
AI is, if you're a C-suite, if you're a CEO or a CDO or a CTO, you must think now, especially after COVID, because you are building this data ecosystem without realizing. If you think of data, if you think of a 10,000 organization or even 10 people organization, you have 10 terabytes of data in your laptop. Now everything is digitized in this cloud. Now suddenly you have 10 terabytes multiplied by possibly petabytes of data being produced on an ongoing basis. Whether you are chatting, you are engaging with customers, whether you are engaging with employee, whether you are dealing with your operations, is exponentially growing. You cannot really reason through and make meaning out of it. Ultimately, what we want as an experience is you move into a space and you want your agents, AI agents, to proactively personalize and help you to navigate through your day. You don't want to go through, oh, where did I put that data? Oh, what happened to that customer? Oh, what should I actually email to that person? You want all that to be taken care almost and personalized and proactive. And that's only can be done by AI.
absolutely. It makes life much easier. It makes business much easier. Pretty, are there any other thoughts that you'd like to share with us today?
Well, I think I'll repeat this: is data is kind of new experience, and AI is the new enabler. If you think, I'll just hone on to it, and it's important for every individual. Those are in the decision-making part of any enterprise to really deeply think about this, how this is going to impact their organizations, whether it is governmental or commercial uh, enterprises or charitable enterprises, how they can reimagine their entire workflow, the ecosystem, and transform their business using AI. And so it's important for to demystify and understand what is AI is. Hopefully, what I have shared here will help that. But no, it's not everybody's a cup of tea that everybody will build AI. Hence, organization like Cognino exist. We want to, we exist to enable others to innovate using AI, right? So that they can build their own intelligent ecosystem,
Absolutely.
and we can research on AI, enable that. And the core part is bringing trustworthy computing, trustworthy AI. That's why explainable AI is very, very important for making your decisions, which can be explained thoroughly. So make sure you demystify about AI, make sure you understand what you are dealing with, but also obsess around the problem that we have right now, which is huge amount of data. And if you want to really enable your enterprise, you need to really reason through that information using AI.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Priti, for joining us today on the show. Your insights were really, really interesting, really valuable. I'm sure the audience is going to love them. Guys, you should really go follow Priti. Check out Cognino AI. Priti, where can they reach out to you?
They can reach out to me in LinkedIn, Twitter, and they can go to Cognino, www.cognino.ai.
Okay, sounds amazing. And folks,
Brilliant.
you know that Engati CX is going to be back with a new episode and a new expert very soon. So hit that subscribe button and make sure you don't miss a single expert and a single interview. We'll see you around for the next one, guys.
Thank you, Adam. Cheers.